Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're exploring literally one of the most magnificent fundamental systems on our entire planet. It all starts with one universal rule. Absolutely everything needs food to survive. Whether you're a microscopic bug, a massive blue whale, or, well, you sitting there watching this right now, survival takes energy. But where does all that food actually come from? Well, today we're unpacking the ultimate solar-powered factory that keeps our whole world running.
So here's our blueprint for today. First, we'll look at the universal need for food. Second, nature's solar-powered factory. Third, how plants source their raw materials. And fourth, the 4 essential factors that make it all happen.
All right, part 1, the universal need for food. So every living thing has to solve the exact same problem of survival, right? But the strategies? Totally different. Just look at the stark contrast in behavior out in nature. You've got cows actively grazing, birds constantly hunting for their next meal. They're spending energy just to find energy. But then look at the massive green trees right next to them. They're just totally stationary, sitting quietly in the sun. They aren't hunting, they aren't grazing, yet they're growing and thriving. How on earth do they do it?
Well, that brings us to a crucial biological distinction. On one side, we have what we call heterotrophs. This includes those cows, the birds, and yeah, us humans too. We depend, either directly or indirectly, on other organisms for our food. Basically, we're consumers. But on the other side, we have autotrophs. Think green plants. They are completely self-sufficient. They act like their own independent little manufacturing centers, producing food entirely internally. They don't need to hunt because they literally create their meals out of thin air, water, and sunlight. Just amazing.
Which brings us to part 2, nature's solar-powered factory. Okay, so how exactly do autotrophs pull off this biological magic trick? The secret is a word you've definitely heard before: photosynthesis. By definition, this is the chemical process where green plants manufacture their own food. They do this inside specialized cells that contain a pigment called chlorophyll. And to whip up this food, they just need 3 specific raw inputs: light energy, carbon dioxide, and water. It's literally the process of assembling life from the most basic elements available.
Let's actually trace how this factory works. It all happens at once. The plant absorbs light energy raining down from the sun. Down below, its roots pull in water, H2O, from the soil. And right through its leaves, it breathes in carbon dioxide, or CO2, from the atmosphere. These 3 raw materials meet inside the plant, a wildly complex reaction kicks off, and the factory spits out 2 amazing products. The first is glucose. That's the plant's food, the actual sugars it uses to grow. The second is a byproduct, basically a waste gas from the plant's perspective, and that is oxygen, O2.
Now, to really get a handle on this process, we need to go down to the factory floor, inside the chloroplast. If you shrink way down and look through an electron microscope, you'll see the chloroplast. It's this double membrane organelle inside the plant cells. Think of it as the heavy machinery on the factory floor. See that deep green pigment? That's the chlorophyll, and honestly, it's the star of the whole show. It functions exactly like an internal solar panel, actively soaking up that incoming light energy from the sun. Without this green pigment trapping the light, the whole manufacturing process would completely grind to a halt.
All right, let's move to part 3, sourcing the raw materials.
Because let's be real, a factory is only as good as its supply chain. Let's track the unbelievable, gravity-defying journey of a single water molecule. Step 1. Deep down in the earth, these tiny root hairs absorb water from the soil using osmosis. Step 2. That water is literally pulled upward through the plant's internal plumbing system, a specialized tissue known as the xylem. Then, step 3, the water hits the leaves and is distributed through those tiny veins right into the central mesophyll cells, right where the chloroplasts are waiting. It's a completely silent, incredibly efficient pumping system. So the plant has its water, but what about sourcing its carbon dioxide? It actually has to pull it right out of thin air.
The precision of this mechanism is just mind-blowing. The plant needs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and it gets it inside the leaf through these microscopic pores on the surface called stomata. Think of stomata like tiny, adjustable breathing valves. The CO2 enters these pores and moves via diffusion. It passively just spreads through tiny, empty spaces inside the leaf until it hits the exact cells where photosynthesis is happening. And just like that, the supply chain is complete.
Which leads us to part 4, the 4 essential factors.
We've toured the factory and the supply chain, so let's lock in the absolute non-negotiables. If you take away even one of these 4 items, photosynthesis stops cold. 1. Chlorophyll, the green pigment that traps the energy. 2. Light energy, the literal solar power fueling the chemical reaction. 3. Water, sucked up from the soil. And 4. Carbon dioxide, inhaled straight from the air. Together, these 4 factors orchestrate the single most important biochemical process on planet Earth.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We've talked a lot about how plants use this solar-powered factory to make their own food. But remember that byproduct we mentioned? Oxygen? Plus, the glucose the plant makes eventually becomes food for all the heterotrophs out there, the grazing cows, the birds, and yeah, eventually us. Every breath you take, every calorie you consume, it all ultimately traces back to this silent green factory. If this system shut down, life as we know it would just cease to exist. Pretty wild thing to think about the next time you walk past a simple green tree, right? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.